when actually it's a physical brain tangible challenge. So for anyone who's listening to this, I want you to remember that if you've got an energy issue, a fatigue issue, a focus issue, like this is the podcast for you. Like this is what I want you to listen to, because chances are it's because you're missing out on some of this stuff. Like it's crazy to me that we don't get exposed to our brains. Like you don't ever see your brain, which we use every day. What is our brain? What does it do? And how do we develop a relationship with it?
Well, it's very clear to me after all the scans I've done that your brain, the physical functioning of your brain, the moment by moment physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And if your brain's not right, your mind's not right. And there are a lot of spiritual teachers that'll separate the mind from the brain, but you can't, because just think of Alzheimer's disease, very damaged brains, and they're very damaged minds that go, people that act in ways they'd never act if their brain was healthy, that they don't remember people that they're deeply in love with. And so if we want a healthy mind, it actually starts with a healthy brain. And, I've had the blessing or the curse to scan over 1,000 convicted felons and over 100 murderers, and their brains are very damaged.
What are those habits? What are those patterns that start damaging our brain? Because I don't think we're aware. As you said, we never see our brain. We don't really talk about it. We don't really know much about it. What are the things we do since birth that damage our brains that could lead to something as extreme as that?
Well, even before birth.
Yes.
So since marijuana has been legalized in many states, babies born with marijuana in their bodies has gone up 1,700%. It's a ridiculous amount. So even before you're born, what happens in utero can damage the trajectory of your life. They have more behavior problems. They have more attention problems. They have less empathy for other people.
What is marijuana doing? Because I feel like so many people do feel like they need it, or like it's benefiting their life, or it's become so normal now. Like what are the issues?
Well, they need it because it changed. It's a ridiculous amount. So even before you're born, what happens in utero can damage the trajectory of your life. They have more behavior problems. They have more attention problems. They have less empathy for other people.
What is marijuana doing? Because I feel like so many people do feel like they need it, or like it's benefiting their life, or it's become so normal now. Like what are the issues?
Well, they need it because it changes their brain to need it in order to feel normal.
What is it doing in a way to make people feel like it's helpful?
It's calming things down in the brain. So I published a study on 1,000 marijuana users. Every area of their brain is lower in activity. And then I published the world's largest imaging study on 62,454 scans, looking at how the brain ages. And I looked at, what accelerated aging? And marijuana was the second worst thing to accelerate aging. The worst thing was having schizophrenia. But the second worst thing, it surprised me, quite frankly. It was worse than alcohol, worse than marijuana. It slows down nerve cell firing. So if you have a busy brain and you're anxious, you feel like it's helpful, but it's also been shown to damage some of the structure of neurons. And kids who smoke or use have an increased incidence of anxiety, depression, and suicide in their 20s. Kids who use have a 450% increased risk of developing psychosis. And I've been a psychiatrist 40 years. We've all seen cases like that. They're cases now because marijuana is so much more potent than it was when I was growing up, that there's a word called scromiting, which is screaming and vomiting at the same time. That if you're in an emergency room, people go, oh, this person's poisoned. with marijuana, not to mention the 1,700% increase in babies being born with marijuana and the trouble that that causes. It's like people go to that before they learn diaphragmatic breathing, before they learn meditation, before they learn self-hypnosis, before they go for EMDR to deal with their traumas. And that's just not right. Like, let's do the non-toxic things first rather than, and that's my problem with psychedelics. It's like, maybe at some point, if you have severe PTSD that's not responding to anything, that could be helpful. But have you done the basics first?
Yeah, and the challenge I find that most people say is that non-toxic things are slow. You have to learn something, right? It's not immediate, like meditation, for example, or actually not meditation. Let's take, what was the first thing you said? You said...
diaphragmatic breathing.
Diaphragmatic breathing.
So I can get you to break a panic attack in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If I just get you to breathe.
Yeah.
4 seconds in, hold it for a second. 8 seconds out, hold it for a second. Do that for 3 minutes. You're going to feel so much better, so much calmer. This isn't hard.
Yeah.
But it's not taught. And so people don't know.
No, yeah.
And then they're like, so where's my dealer?
That's the hard part. That's the hard part. We're not taught, and then we go for the quick fix, and then we get addicted to the quick fix because it's a quick fix, and then that becomes our reality. And that's
right.
That's
but there are other quick fixes that are quick.
Yeah.
If we just are taught.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite things is killing the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or erratic, write down what you're thinking. Just write it down and then go, is it true? And then write the opposite. Tana never listens to me. Tana does listen to me. And then go, is that true? And you'll often find the opposite of the thought that's torturing you is true.
Is also true.
That is blows your mind. Yeah. When you
I do that all the time with my wife. I feel the same way. Doing it with your spouse is very helpful. When I'm like, oh, Radhi doesn't care about me. And then, asking myself, Radhi does care about me. I'm like, oh, I can find lots of reasons. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And then you don't have to believe
the
negativity, because where you look determines how you feel. If you find the negative, you're going to feel negative. And if you find the beautiful, you're going to feel beautiful.
Absolutely.
And then, as you go through life, the standard American diet is damaging brains. And I have a mnemonic called Bright Minds, which helps me remember, like B is for blood flow, low blood flow, #1 brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. So Netflix, right? Not in front of the TV too often, not exercising, that damages your brain. Probably the #1 thing that causes brain trouble. Your brain is soft, about the consistency of soft butter. Your skull is really hard and has sharp bony ridges. Mild traumatic brain injuries ruin people's lives. If you said, hey, Daniel, single most important thing from 210,000 scans, mild traumatic brain injuries. Don't let your kids. Physical, right? From snowboarding, falling off a horse, football, soccer, hockey.
Physical abuse too, I guess. Domestic violence.
Physical abuse will do it. Falls, car accidents, and people are texting and driving and texting and walking. And there's 3 million new concussions every year in the United States, which means over the last 30 years, there have been 90 million people that have had concussions. It's very common and a common cause of depression, homelessness, addiction, suicide, panic attacks, ADHD.
If someone could do something starting tomorrow, what is the thing that someone could do waking up tomorrow that could be better for their brain? What would you say that is?
Well, in You Happier, I talk a lot about the tiny habits, the smallest things that'll make the biggest difference. Frozen blueberries. Oh, 2 thumbs up. God's candy. Or avocados. Oh, 2 thumbs up. God's butter. Hitting your head with a soccer ball. No, very stupid. Thumbs down. So that's 1. 2, whenever you wake up in the morning, today is going to be a great day. You have to nudge your brain, right? We have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, we have a self-image, and your subconscious is paying attention to the words that the conscious mind is saying. And so if you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, today is going to be a bad day, you're going to have a bad day because you just programmed your subconscious mind to do that. Every day when my feet hit the floor, today is going to be a great day. And then my favorite of all of them is when you go to bed at night. And bed is so important because if you want to have a good day, it starts the night before. Is what went well today. So when I go to bed, I say a prayer and then I go, what went well? And I go on a treasure hunt because I'm purposefully looking for what are the right things that happened. And I look for the micro moments, like what's the smallest thing? And I've been doing this for years and it's so helpful. And about 2.5 years ago, my dad died and it was an awful, awful day. And when I went to bed that night, I said a prayer and then I went, what went well today? And then the voice in my head, started criticizing me like you're a bad kid and you don't love your dad and whatever. But because it's my habit, I went, what went well today? And I saw this interaction between my mother and the police officer. And it was so funny and so beautiful that it just made me smile. And then I thought of all the texts I got from my friends who found out about my dad, and that was peaceful. And then I just thought about holding his hand before they took him away. And I went to sleep because I'm mastering my mind and not being a victim of the situation. It didn't mean I didn't grieve. I still grieve. I still miss him. But it's these habits, like every day, to direct my mind, to help me while taking care of my brain.
What I'm fascinated by is our relationship with feeling a certain way versus being a certain way. So when I started to have to remove refined sugar from my diet, which my wife encouraged me to do, I didn't feel good about that. Like that was painful. I didn't enjoy that feeling in my mind, right? So I started to discover that the things that are actually good for me don't always feel good. So how do you approach the idea of feeling a certain way? Because I feel like everything that I do that's good for me, I didn't feel good about when I started doing it. Now I choose it because now
because you're getting the benefit from
correct,
it.
The benefits. I'm also feeling the pattern shift. Why do we always want to feel happy and feel good, but we don't often make the right decisions?
Secret number 4 is love food that loves you back. And you're in a relationship. I want you to love what you eat, but I also want it to love you. And so if you're in love with alcohol, and alcohol is clearly toxic to your brain for so many reasons, brain and your body, then it's sort of like you're in an abusive relationship. And I just want people to think about, what do you really want? Do you want that mountain of fries or that swimming pool of alcohol? Or do you want energy? Do you want clarity? Do you want memory? Do you want vitality? Do you want creativity? And ultimately, what I want is I want to feel good. And I want to be good, and I want to do good. And that comes from a brain and body that work right. So I don't want to feel good now, but not later, right? That's a 4-year-old's mindset. I want to feel good now and later. So the things I do day in and day out, I love. Now, it takes a while sometimes to change your habits. The brain is lazy. It just wants to do what you've allowed it to do. So I recommend, this is actually part of Secret 7, live each day based on clearly defined values, purpose, and goals. And giving in to every craving I have is the enemy of happiness because it ends up wearing out your dopamine or pleasure centers in your brain. And I always talk about you want to drip dopamine. don't dump it. Because when you dump it with the fries and the alcohol, the porn, you don't have much left. And so then you have to go back and do it again. And all of a sudden, chemicals are controlling you rather than you are controlling you.
I find that happiness is such an interesting goal. That's what I meant by like, we want to feel happy, but the things that you have to do to feel happy are not necessarily the things you want to do. If something like initially, that's what I'm saying. Until it switches.
Until it switches. And oh, by the way, and I start the book with this, happiness is a moral obligation. Because, you know, people are like, oh, you're writing a book on happiness. That's fluff. Can't you do something more serious? And I'm like, but it's a moral obligation. Why? Because of how you affect other people. I guarantee you, if you ask someone who was raised by an unhappy parent, or married to an unhappy spouse, or raising an unhappy child, whether or not happiness is an ethical issue. Yeah. So this is important for us to seek happiness in the context of health.
Dr. Daniel Amen, you'll know, this will be no surprise to you. We end every interview with a fast five, which is our final five every time that we do this. So you have to figure out new answers every time you come on. But these are your fast five. So the first question is, what is the best brain advice you've ever heard, receive, or given?
Every day, ask yourself this question. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? It's so simple. It's the mother tiny habit to have a great brain for the rest of your life.
Okay. Second question. What is the worst brain habit advice you've ever received? So what is the worst brain advice you've ever received?
Everything in moderation, which is the gateway thought to hell. It's the gateway thought to cheating. As soon as you hear someone say everything in moderation, they're going to do something bad for their brain.
Wow. Explain. Let's dive into that a little bit, because I feel like that's such a common misconception that people have. I need to have a balanced life and a balanced diet, right? So
yeah, but balance for them, when they're saying moderation, means sugar, right, or it means alcohol, or it means marijuana, or all the things that doesn't fast treat food. You well. It means comfort. Yeah. It's their excuse. Yeah. It's one of the little lies people tell themselves that keep them fat, depressed, and feeble-minded.
Question number 3. What is your current purpose? How do you define it?
My current purpose is to change how psychiatric medicine is practiced, to take it out of the dark ages, to end the whole concept of mental illness and create a revolution in brain health.
Mm-hmm. Question number 4, what's something you wish you knew about the brain earlier in your own life?
So 1991, I'm 37, and I'm a double board certified psychiatrist. I was the top neuroscience student in medical school, and I don't care about my brain at all. And I was overweight, and I was only sleeping 4 hours a night. I was chronically stressed, and I scanned my brain because I just started scanning. So I scanned everybody I knew. I scanned my 60-year-old mother. She had a gorgeous brain. And when I scanned myself, it wasn't healthy. And I was horrified. And I come from a very competitive family. And I just really unhappy that my 60-year-old mother had a better looking brain than I did. So I developed a concept called brain envy. I always say Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. I wanted a better brain. And I think I've spent the last 31 years just trying to get a better brain.
Wow. So you just wish you knew about that earlier?
I wish I knew about that earlier. I wouldn't have played football. And I wouldn't have drank diet soda like it was my best friend.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because I feel like soda, people have agreed it's bad, but now diet soda's become...
I used to think diet soda was free, right? I mean, it's like no calories. But the aspartame and what we know now with sucralose is really bad. So there's a brand new study out looking at sugar, sucralose or Splenda, and stevia. And they did brain scans and cognitive testing. And stevia, nothing happened before or after. It seemed actually pretty safe.
That's amazing.
Sugar, New learning dropped. Splenda was the worst. New learning